Hi, and welcome to the We've Got a Problem podcast. I'm Andrew Wallace, and this week I'm talking to Melanie Mitchell-Wexler. She's a former recruiter turned career coach. Melanie leverages her 26 years of experience in the industry to help job seekers find meaningful and fulfilling careers. Having spent time on both sides of the equation, from the job search to the resume that gets you the interview to the personal brand that sets you apart, Melanie knows how to maximize every stage of the job hunting process to help her clients achieve their goals and land their dream jobs. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this is one of those things that people, look, I do not like the job hunting process at all. I'm not good at tooting my own horn. I feel like the people who are constantly having their resume constantly polished are a little bit disinvested in the job they're actually doing because they're always looking for the next one. The whole mechanism, I think, is fraught with a lot of places where we can fall off the hurdle, trip, fall, do all these kinds of things. Before we get into all that, I want to know some background. What are your bona fides? How did you get started? What brought you to this lowly stage?
Yes. So what brought me to it was my 20 plus years as a recruiter. I fell into recruiting. No recruiter will ever say nobody's ever said to you, I'm looking to be a recruiter. Like, nobody grows up to want to be a recruiter. So first and foremost. And then I really found a career, though, that I loved. I love the challenge of being a recruiter. It's not the easiest job. What it taught me was I literally got to work both sides of the fence. So I was working with the clients and the hiring managers, the decision makers, the other recruiters. I was presenting candidates to them.
Sure.
Getting rejected. I mean, I always say there's always a little something off with us recruiters because our job is 12-hour days. You get rejected about 99% of the time, but yet you still come to work every single day. And you live for like one yes. If you're lucky that day, you're like, oh, thank God. And you find the small things that are worth it. But yeah, so I mean, truthfully, I wasn't set out to be a coach. That wasn't the goal. I left a company after I was with them for 8 years back in 2016. I put myself in the job market myself. Guess what? It wasn't easy even for me. It's not easy for recruiters either. I was going to go corporate recruiting. That was the direction I was headed. I actually took a position. I started coaching, honestly, to earn extra income because of my career journey in 2017. I needed
Sure.
extra income. What led to that was, one person saying, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this? And I was like, sure, I can do that. And just realizing when I got into career coaching, there really wasn't a lot of career coaches that actually had, I don't want to say like real life experience, but having been in the trenches with candidates and really understanding what does happen, what is an applicant tracking system, what actually happen, how do you function, how do you be a successful recruiter? And a lot of those traits are things that I try to teach to my clients and getting them to think like really strategically.
Right.
And how to get themselves in front of a company, from a client, how do you get through the job, searching process? I mean, I don't think anybody should be a professional job seeker. And if you are, that I think is a whole other conversation we need to have. And I don't know anybody that's ever been like, oh my God, I love job seeking. Like, it was the best experience ever.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so that's part of the question is, why is the job search process so soul sucking, and how can we make it just a little bit better? Because for me, when I look at searching for a job, and I have never been good at it. I don't know if anybody is really good at it, because we don't do it all the time, right? You are in it. You have been there. You constantly, every day, we're going through this process and figuring out, like you say, what the applicant tracking systems are looking for, what people are looking for, what gets a yes, what gets an interview. Because for me, and this is, and I have not had extensive experience in it, because again, I've been working the same job for the last 14 years. So the last time I was in the job market, things were totally different. And even before that, in 2006, 2007, 2008, which was the last time I was intensely looking for a career, because I just graduated from college, the system was totally different. But
oh yeah,
why, from your perspective, does finding a fulfilling career bedevil so many people? Because, I mean, obviously, a lot of us have jobs, but it's not necessarily fulfilling. It's not giving all of those things. Why is that such a problem? Why? And what can we do to fix it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack, but let's go with that first. And I think really honestly, I go back to so the company I was with for 8 years, I saw all the red signs, all the red flags. I mean, they couldn't have waved more red flags in front of me. And everybody there, it really took some massive changes to really push me out the door. I had a lot of, for me personally, the way I looked at it was I knew I should have left. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Like you see it, but like for me, I was a single mom. I had, I had a lot of bosses. That was part of the problem. But my last couple of bosses were very supportive of, like, they knew, like, my daughter had, plays and dance and all sorts of things. So I had a little freedom. I was scared to give up that freedom, scared to be like, oh, I've got to go to a new place and be like, oh, hey, can I leave? You don't know anything about my work ethic, and you don't know that I won't, come back and actually work, 3 or 4 more hours. But, I need to go pick up my daughter and get her across town and, do all that. So, so I think a lot of people are afraid of that unknown. And I get it. Sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. But oftentimes we're forced out of that nest, not by our choice. So whether you got laid off, whether the company's closing, whether you got fired, we're forced out into this. And then we repeat the same. We just immediately we don't dive into, like, well, what do I want?
Right.
What did I not like about that company? Or what did I not like about the job? People then jump right into I got to find a job. And I get it. I get the financial stress and all of that. But I'm like, you got to stop. We've got to stop and really say to ourselves, what is it that I want, out of my bosses? What is it that I want out of my company? What that I want out of my position? What is it I don't like to do? I mean, sometimes it's like, figure out what you don't like to do is just as important as knowing what you want to do.
Yes, that's huge. And I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, and my regular listener may remember that I've said a lot that if you don't have a plan for your life, somebody else is going to have one for you.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Doing that kind of thinking, that just taking one step back from what do I need right now to what do I want? What would make me happy? What doesn't make me happy? What do I not like doing? And have your, hopefully it's not this huge list of, I want, and too specific, because we need to be open to things that might actually meet our boxes, check our boxes and meet our requirements without being exactly what we envisioned. Doing those kinds of, how I like to use my mind, what I like to work with, the people I want to work with, the kind of people I want to be surrounded by. Because, hey, a lot of having fulfillment at work is the people you work with, and the ethic that's behind what they're doing and the meaning that they derive from it, and just being around cool people.
And that was me. Like, my last guy, I loved my team. I was very fortunate. I loved my team. And when we had changes coming from the bottom or from the top down, and my longest teammate said, I can't do this anymore, I'm quitting. I just knew that, like, then my boss had been fired, and I just was like, wow, for as much as we tried to create this, we were 5 offices here in the Washington, D.C. office, and we're the only office in Maryland. And we kind of joke, like, we had this, like, moat around us, and it was like trying to protect us from all the craziness that was happening in all these other offices that we knew was happening. Right. It started to finally infiltrate because we just couldn't stop the craziness at the top. And so when my team was, like, disbanding, I was like, I can't do this. I can't be here in this company without these people. Because it's not going to go well. It's not going to go, like, I'm not going to, like, I won't survive.
Yes.
So That was what triggered me.
Yeah. So there's probably always some sort of trigger, opening moment that gets people into this stuff. But once you're there, and like you say, obviously the financial stuff matters. I get that. I understand that if you get to a point, it's like I am done, or I've been laid off, or whatever happens, that I've got to make a change. And of course, the time to look for a job is when you have one, not when you don't.
When you don't. Yes.
But at the same time, to sit there and go, look, I'm not absolutely miserable, but I know I need to move on. I know that what I want is not here, and you've started to do that process. Great. So now somebody comes to you. Somebody comes to Melanie Mitchell-Wexler and goes, you've got to help me. I'm ready to start. Who is your ideal client? Who do you love helping the most?
I love helping. I love being able to help the person. I do a little bit of everything. So I do everything from resumes to LinkedIn profiles to interview networking, job search strategies. But I really love working with that person. And honestly, I work with individuals that have been college graduates to C-level executives. I did that as a recruiter. I've worked in all sorts of industries. So I can acclimate very well to any type of client, really. But it's really the client that is at that point of wants to go through the process from the beginning through the end. And that means diving deep into what are your goals? What is it that you're really looking for? Working on what, your resume, working on your LinkedIn profile together, really jumping and diving into that personal brand of who you are, what do you want to represent? And then being able to jump into the job search process. So, I love being able to use my recruiting skills in that regard, but also showing people how to do it, how to network properly. Yes. You talked a little bit about the job market, and the job market always changes. As a recruiter, so I got started as a recruiter back when the economy was the best economy ever. We'll never see that again. Okay, folks. But, and there's a lot of reasons why, bad economics and bad business practices, it was easy for people to walk into recruiting was easy in some ways, it was just literally people you still couldn't find good people, but it was a little bit easier. Then I went through 2 different recessions. I've gone through 2 different recessions. Of course, now as a coach, I've gone through a pandemic, wasn't planning on saying that in my lifetime, but, so every job market changes. This is a weird job market. I mean, I wish I had this great description of it, but this is just a weird market. Even for myself, it was weird back in 2017, just putting myself, now I'm not the recruiter, but I know how to be a recruiter. I know what recruiters are looking for. I'm not the decision maker. I'm the candidate now. And, and it played with my mind. It definitely did. It hit, definitely hit some mindset issues, from that standpoint. But the whole point being, this market is definitely weird. So you have to be able to really equip yourself with every single tool possible to stand out in today's market, because it's not going to, I'm not going to lie, it's not going to be kind.
Well,
it's not going to be kind to you.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of the question is, how do you set yourself apart? Because, you talk about personal brand, right? And that's one of those concepts that gets bandied about. And it's certainly something that's been on my radar. Trying to market a podcast, let's say, is what is my brand? What sets my podcast apart? The concept of this thing is something that gets bandied about. But what does it mean for the average job hunter? Because we're not all celebrities who post our thoughts regularly on LinkedIn about every business thing that's relevant. And we're not great at all those things. We're not going to be Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors, talking about the future of transportation. We're working in much smaller areas, but we do need to create it. What does it mean to you, and why does it matter to create a personal brand?
So this kind of is a 2-part question for me, because people ask, first off, how do you set yourself apart? First off, people, when they go into the job application process, try to customize themselves to fit these jobs. And there is some truth to that. But the other flip side is, you have to own what you bring to the table. So if you have to be strategic and smart when you're applying. I actually don't want you applying. I mean, first off, I don't want you applying for hundreds of jobs. I have,
Right.
and I have clients that have fallen into that are literally applying for anything and everything. I understand feeling the pressure and the sense of desperation and things like that. That's not going to work because that's not what you're claiming to be known for.
Right. Right. Yes.
Like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So first, I don't care if you're that person coming in to, your very first job or, but more in particular to those senior level people, you cannot claim to be an expert in a field or a subject matter expert and not own it. So that's really where when you think of as a job seeker, as an employee, what do you want? If you come to the table, what are you known for? And that can be everything from the industry to your skill set to the type of position. I mean, it's a cliche, but knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses. And that is part of the personal brand piece. And that's why personal branding is so important. So no, you don't have to be, you were talking about General Motors. Snoop Dogg just recently joined LinkedIn. It's all over LinkedIn. And he has a new cereal out for everybody that wants to know. It's through, it's called Snoop. It's through Walmart. He has obviously a clear brand and he's, does all these like amazing business deals and he's completely tapped into his own market. But you don't have to be that person. You don't have to be the one creating the content, necessarily. But one thing I would like to see, if you're a senior, if you're claiming to be a leader or an expert, you need to be commenting on those types of topics. You need to be engaging with that audience. I don't take the stance when I work through LinkedIn strategies with clients. I don't take the stance that you have to quote unquote create content. It does help you. But there's other ways that you can go about. So engagement is really my biggest, that's where I hone in on finding the people that you should be commenting on, finding, if you really want to work for X, Y, and Z company, okay, you need to start following the CEO, the marketing director, whoever is in your wheelhouse and looking to see what kind of content they're creating and be commenting on that. You want to be seen as an expert, you have to show up as the expert. Right. So yeah. And again, even knowing it, when you're entry level, you may say, well, hey, I don't have any of that. That's okay. That's okay. But you still have skills, you still have strengths, and there's things that you bring that you have a unique vision or a unique perspective that nobody else has. And so you have to own that.
Yes.
And that's where personal branding comes into play.
Yes. And that's, part of the question then becomes for me, okay, you need to own it. You need to do all these things. But all of that stuff takes a lot of time. And I need a job now, right? You get into that thing where it's like, great. But I need to be very strategic about where I'm going and what I'm doing. Because if you're trying to set yourself apart on LinkedIn, you're trying to follow people, you're trying to comment, you're trying to be engaged. And that's where it becomes a life strategy. It's like dieting, right? We're not going on a program temporarily. We're not suddenly joining all the social media and trying to become a subject matter expert that's out there all the time, blah, 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 blah. We need to be constantly manning the store, mining the mine, plowing the field, doing the things that we need to do. Always, because you can't just leave it to die and then come back to it and expect anything to be there. It's got to be cultivated. So part of the question then becomes, where do you think people go wrong most of all? What in the whole process? Is it resumes? Is it personal branding? Is it interviewing? Where are people going horribly wrong? And what would you just go, stop it, let me fix this, don't do this anymore? The one piece of advice I give to anybody is, I don't stop spending your time. I get it. It's easy. You're on the couch. It's, 8:00 at night. You're just like, submit, apply for that job. Some jobs take a lot longer to do. So I don't want to dismiss that, but it's just the constant repeat and rinse process of applying for jobs and then doing nothing else.
So what I actually recommend and I work with my clients specifically on is like, okay, let's find this. Okay, you applied for this job, stop. And let's, I have a specific strategy of like who to go look for on LinkedIn. You don't even have to apply for the job on LinkedIn. We can go, and I use LinkedIn I'm a big LinkedIn user, so I do talk about it a lot, but use LinkedIn. Let's find the connection. Let's find the recruiter. Let's find the hiring manager. Let's find a peer. Do some networking. Are you activating your own network? Have you actually reached out? And I get it. You're going to be like, well, Aunt Sally and Uncle John, they're not helping me find a job in, marketing, or, they don't know the first thing about what I do. Okay, but it's not about them. It's about who they know. And that's where people, I think, fail to like, or they go and say, hey, Andrew, I'm looking for a job. If you know of anything, let me know. Okay, well, that doesn't help you at all. Like, right. I mean, like, okay, like, do you want remote? Do you want, how much salary do you need? What kind of, you need to be specific. Activate your network, be specific, give them don't be afraid. Don't be afraid or to be like, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, now you've equipped those people with the right information that they can actually help you.
Yep.
And so we get in this habit of like, oh, job searching is applying for jobs. And I'm like, it's so much more. It's so much more. And I do take a very big piece of like networking. And I think in particular, especially in today's market, how do you take that resume that's maybe one of 500 that's sitting in a pile? Well, you got to grab their attention. And simply by reaching out to, a hiring manager or to a recruiter, not everybody's going to respond. I'm not, we're dealing with people here. So we don't control, there's so much we don't control in this process, but we have to, I believe we take control of the things that we can control. And that is really the networking piece is, where we stop and we recognize that is a huge piece of this job searching process. It's not about saying, oh, there's some people out there like I'm going to apply for 10 jobs every single day. Why 10? But like really, like you're qualified for 50 jobs that are posted. I, as a former recruiter, I would really push hard and say, you're probably not.
Right.
And then you feel like you failed if you didn't apply for 10 jobs oh my God, I only applied for 20 jobs this week. Like I'm not going to land a job.
Especially when, again, you're probably not qualified for all these jobs and you're trying to mold yourself to fit these things and kind of just reverse engineer your resume into fitting the job description. And of course, I'm sure some of that's necessary, right? I'm sure you might advise.
Absolutely. There are things, we can flip things around. We can move bullet points. But I'm not going to be able to take your background and shape it to something. Clients will either love me or not appreciate it, but I'm very truthful and very direct with them in the sense of like, you're not qualified for this job. And I've had to tell some clients that you're applying for jobs that are there's a stretch and then there's a stretch. Okay. If we're over here, that's not going to land us the job very quickly. Okay, folks, like, we need to be in this window.
Right. Yes. And I mean, that part of the thing for me is people spend and obsess over the formatting of the resume and, that's got to be it. And in a world of automated tracking software, the part of the question then becomes, how much does using Helvetica matter on your resume versus getting the right information on the resume?
So I am not a 1-page or a 2-page resume coach camp person. I know this will sound a little woo-hoo-ish, but I really let the content tell me. I have had people with 20-year careers, but they've been at the same company. They've, and we've gotten it to 1 page and it looks good. I do take into account, applicant tracking systems, the tracking systems, keywords are very important. Content is important, but you still want to make it reader friendly. I mean, I can tell you, as a former recruiter I know this will sound super exciting to everybody, literally just sat in front of a computer on some days, going through resume after resume. You want something that is easy to read. I want something, I don't want to read a book. Okay. I don't have time to read a book. I need some things that I'm going to glance at. I'm probably not going to digest. Here's the truth. I'm not going to digest every single bullet point that you meticulously wrote. It just won't ever happen. I am looking for keywords. I am going to tell the computer, hey, show me where digital marketing shows up in this resume. I'm looking at those spaces, those
Sure.
places. I'm going to mark, do you have the degree? Do you not? How many years of experience? I'm going to check some initial boxes. And then you go into a yes or a no pile. I mean, it's not, no, it's not a personal,
Right.
like there is no personal feelings attached to it. It is you get very good at it. You get very good at it very fast.
Right.
And, then you go to your yes pile, and depending on how many you have there, you're going to probably narrow that down. And then you pick up the phone and say, hey, tell me about yourself. It
Yeah.
really is that, it's really that simplistic to some degree.
Yes, yes. And I think the part of the thing that people get lost in is remembering that while computers and systems and all that are at play, at the end of the day, these are human beings who are going to be dealing with human beings.
Yes.
So there needs to be a human aspect to all of this, how you treat people and how you work with people and how you go into all these situations, because them's the rules. And yes, it might feel impersonal as you go through the process, and it kind of has to be, because there's that quantity
Yeah. It
to
just, I can't get, as a recruiter, I can't necessarily get, and not to say that as a former recruiter, I didn't love certain candidates that I had, of course, I'm cheering them on, but I can't get overly attached. And that was one
right.
thing I even, I was a managing director for quite some time. I trained new recruiters that would walk in and be like, oh my God, I love that person. And I'm like, stop. They're going to break your heart. Okay. First off, you didn't know them yesterday. If you ran into them on the street, you wouldn't have been, I love that person. So you got to keep it professional, but you also got to make sure that you're not clouding and at the end of the
Sure.
day, it's always very real, because people would say, oh, you help people find jobs. Yes, that was an outcome of what I did. But the truth was, my job was to place the best candidate with my client. My
Right.
clients were the ones that were paying me. And I think one person that tries to teach people, and I know that seems harsh, but that's the reality of recruiting. So you have to understand that, how do I work with a recruiter? What's a recruiter really good? What are they looking for? What are they going to respond to? What are they not going to respond to? And of course, everybody's different, but at the end of the day, it's not, I'm not looking for my best friend. I understand you're going through a lot of stuff, but I also, I'm like, well, you don't know what I'm going through. So, so we really have to, you just have to keep it very black and white.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. And that's one of my goals, is really to kind of teach people, this is how you work with a recruiter. This is how you actually build a relationship that is a successful relationship.
Yes. And ultimately, that is what we're after. Let us build a successful relationship.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we're kind of coming to the end a bit here. There are questions I like to ask everybody, and these can be very specific to your individual niche in career search, job hunting, career coaching, or they can be very broad for the world and all of that. But first of all, what do you feel like the biggest fallacy is that everybody buys into, that ultimately at the end of the day is just way overrated? What
That
belief do you wish that would die?
I wish that people would stop saying that applicant tracking systems are rejecting your resume, and that there's these imaginary robots that are screening and filtering your resume out. Believe me, 20 plus years, I wish I had had a robot to help me. Okay.
Well,
I
maybe
wouldn't have,
someday. Maybe it'll
maybe so.
come someday. But
I wouldn't have worked 12, 16-hour days. Okay.
yeah,
But that is not a truth. There is a person that is still telling the computer, this is what I'm looking to see. Show me who has it. So
right, for sure. And on the other side of that, what do you think the most underrated concept is that people overlook? What are people missing?
I would direct this to actually to hiring managers and companies. I think that we need to start really waking up and realizing that there is a whole world of individuals, and specifically when we put emphasis on, like, say, for example, college degrees, then not every position is an absolute must. And, be open sometimes to those, to your quote unquote list. I mean, of course, I want my lawyer, my, doctor. I want you, I want you all to like
Sure.
gone through school and understand the laws, and I want you to know what you're doing. Yeah, I get that. My daughter's in college, and she has a very specific career path. So I get, she needs her degrees, but at the end of the day, I think there is a great market out there. We're not tapping into the full market. So when you're saying that these positions aren't being filled, there's a lot of people out there that could fill these jobs. I think you have to be open. You have
Yeah.
to be, as much as we say to a candidate, you need to be open to opportunities. The same message needs to be sent to hiring managers and decision makers.
I like that. I think, and that's probably the best advice that anybody's been given is be be open. Be open on both sides, like you say.
Yeah.
What might do this? I think, and of course, I have always felt that if you read job postings, particularly for higher value positions, that companies are looking for a unicorn. They're looking for somebody that doesn't exist.
Nobody teaches anybody how to write a job description. So there is a way to read it. But yeah, no, we need to be open. You don't know what your dream, you may think you know what your dream looks like, but it may show up very packaged very differently.
There you go. There you go. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me. Folks, if you want to know more about Melanie, check out her
Thank
website,
you.
findsucceedachieve.com, and follow her on social media. Links to everything are in the show notes as always. And until next time, we don't have a problem. We've got an opportunity.